like to know firsthand what it's like to grow and transform, becoming more satisfied and successful? I'm Terry Yoffe, and welcome. These podcasts are an integral part of the Try Coaching brand, delivering the same messaging as my coaching platform. I help clients overcome the obstacles that keep them stuck by allowing them to clarify their goals, thereby allowing them to realize their own joy and success. Through my podcast, Extraordinary Work, Conversations about Creating Change, I have the privilege of talking to influential people that are creating change and making a difference. Like coaching, these conversations are meant to provide inspiration and wisdom that can propel you to a more fulfilling life and greater purpose.
I think a lot of people, they think they're burnt out. I think they're bored. I think that they're really bored. I think that they feel a sense that they actually want more. They want to play big, but they don't know how to get there.
Jerrid Sebesta suggests that sometimes boredom in your life or career can actually mean you are out of alignment and need to look deeper to find that spark. Jerrid went from award-winning meteorologist to retirement planning expert to waking up and realizing that this wasn't his dream. He decided to take that leap of faith and go out and help people discover their potential. Jerrid Sebesta, welcome. Just to let you know, Jerrid is in Minnesota, and I'm sure it's a little nippy out there today.
Yeah, for a person who loves the sunshine and warm weather, I think I live in the wrong state.
Jerrid, we've known each other a little bit, and I love everything you have to talk about. And we'll get into the whole life undeferred and what that means. But tell us a little bit about how you got to where you are.
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm 46 years old, was raised in a small town in Minnesota, was raised in scarcity, I would call it, raised by my single mom, kind of by myself. And I found myself kind of parenting my parents a lot when I was a kid. And as a result, took on different mindsets. I'm not blaming my parents, my childhood, but really realized, and I didn't know how to articulate this at the time, but life happens to me, not for me. And I became an overachiever, a striver, a perfectionist. And it was all about me and my efforts. And that served me well. I had a very successful TV career for 12 years. I was a TV weatherman, probably one of the only TV weathermen you've had on this podcast. And did another career for 10 years in the financial world. And then as I got into COVID really, really terrified me. It was kind of the ultimate of chaos. I'd spent all of my life running away from chaos, playing defense. I was playing not to lose. I wasn't playing to win. I was going to win by saying no, by protecting myself, by mitigating every risk possible. And then coming out of COVID, I was 43, exhausted, scared, and was ready to make a change. And I made a very stark decision on January the 1st, 2022, on a walk with my wife, where I said, I'm not going to play defense anymore. I'm going to start saying yes. I'm going to start playing offense. I'm going to start co-creating the life that I want. And I'm going to start diving in. And I can trace all the transformation in the last 3 years of my life back to that moment. It was a very powerful moment. I started reading books. I started going to conferences. Terry, 3 years ago, I wouldn't buy a $20 book because I thought it was too expensive, even though maybe it could change my life. And that first year of saying yes was so eye-opening. And that led into 2023, where I really started to see massive changes in my own thinking. It took that long to unwind and unlearn some of those trains of thought. And 2024 was an incredible year. I quit my W-2 job back in July of 2024. Now a full-time speaker, coach, mentor, authored my first book back in November of 2024. And so my life looks just incredibly different, but it came as a result of getting to the end of my rope on a mindset that I didn't understand at the time. But as that started to unwind, the caps came off my life. And now I'm full-time just trying to help people see transformation in their own life. And it's just kind of a testimony of what I've experienced and lived through in the last 3 years. So that's kind of how and why I got to talking with you here today.
I have to just say, not so different from a lot of people. You stole my line, which is I finally started saying yes. And that changed the trajectory of my life in, I guess, 83, when, I was much older and I'd been working and blah, blah. And I was offered a sales job. I had no sales experience, but she said, well, the fashion industry. At that point, I could have said no out of fear. Instead, I said yes, changed the whole trajectory of my sales career.
Something so powerful. Yeah. When you say yes, you're getting curious. You start expanding your mind. You start opening your mind, hopefully, to like new ideas. And when you do that, you start realizing it was those mindsets is actually the reason why you were getting capped. The book by Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich. I read that book like 15 years ago. I joke, but I'm kind of serious. I thought that book was sorcery when I read it, but I was reading it through the lens of fear and scarcity. And now when I read it, it just makes so much sense. So there's something so powerful in that decision and start saying yes. I would completely compliment you on that. Great job.
We can live in fear-based or love-based. And actually, my latest guest, Dana Grant, talks about that. People live in fear-based rather than love-based. So, fear is contracting and love is expanding. Let's hear about life undeferred.
It was so funny because as I was kind of going through this transformation, it was the best way for me to sum up what I was experiencing at the time. And then also too, coming out of COVID, I was getting asked to speak a little bit more and more here and there. As being a speaker and stuff, like everything kind of shut down for about 2 years. And I was doing a fair amount of speaking before COVID. And then after COVID, like I was getting asked to talk again, but I had changed. I was changing. The world had changed. And so my old message really didn't hold water anymore. And so I remember like getting asked to do that first keynote and I had to come up with some sort of title. And so I landed on life undeferred, but it's really the antithesis of living life deferred. I really felt that my life was in deferral mode. When you're in scarcity and you say no to everything, you're deferring life to someday. And I'm not just talking experiences, I'm talking about growth and expansion. Like you have all of this potential to expand your soul. You are a limitless divine being that's connected to a limitless divine creator. And if you're open and willing to it, there's no limit to how much you can grow and expand. But when you're saying no, you limit that growth and you defer life. And it's such a tragedy when we get to the end of our lives and you've left potential energy on the table. I'm not old. I don't consider myself old, but I'm 46. You start to realize that, you do have a finite amount of time left on planet Earth. I hope I have many, 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 many decades, but at the same time too, like you're not 20. When you're 20, you think you're going to live forever, and then all of a sudden it's like, man, if I don't start playing bigger and stop playing small, time will run out. And to me, that's the biggest tragedy in life. So again, life undeferred is really not just having like Peter Pan experiences, which are nothing wrong with those things. It's about really like tapping into the greatness, changing the inner man so you can grow and expand to your destiny.
You talk about you were a meteorologist, then you went into financial planning, and in both places you did phenomenally well as far as your job and what you created in each of those places. And you talk about the three elements that really helped you and brought you to where you are today. And that was your storytelling, your personal connections, and finding gold in people's lives. So that's kind of a thread that you talk about. Did they help you in the creation of your book?
None of the jobs that I walked away from ultimately changed. They were kind of steady Eddie. What changed out of the equation? I did. I morphed, grew, and evolved. And I really, again, coming out of the pandemic, I really got aggressive once I started saying yes about really stepping into my genius. I've never made money unless it involves talking. And I could look back at that time to say, like, where is my genius? It really is involved in communicating, inspiring, and motivating. I look at my past that I've healed from, through kind of like childhood experiences. And I can see how even having to like keep my head on a swivel as a kid in a very emotionally unsafe household, that has molded and shaped me to be able to identify emotion. And so at 43 years old, when I was kind of going through my own transformation, I started to understand that I'm not broken. This is who I am. I'm a motivator. I'm a speaker. I'm a connector. And so I started doubling down on that and then co-creating, a business now around that and a platform. And so that's how the evolution started. And that's why I was able to kind of walk away from these very successful careers, is because I was taking steps towards honoring my most authentic self. And my journey is going to look a lot different than anybody else. But that's why I was so proud of the book, is that this is really, it's a physical representation of the most authentic thing that I have been able to create because of my life experiences over, at the time, 46 years.
So Life Undeferred is about your life from beginning to where you are now and what you've done and accomplished.
That was the drive behind it. If I can bust out of these caps, not to sound cliche, anybody can do it. Terry, I would not buy a $20 book 3 years ago. That's where I was in my life. That's how capped I was in my thinking. And so the subtitle of my book is How to Discover the Dream Life Already Inside and Discover the Bold, Exciting You. I tell people flat out when I go speak to them, I don't have the answers. You know who has the answers? You already have them. All you have to do is figure out how to unlock that. And as a result, there will be a bold, exciting you that will come forth to the world. I think a lot of people, they think they're burnt out. I think they're bored. I think that they're really bored. I think that they feel a sense that they actually want more. They want to play big, but they don't know how to get there. And I think that's what keeps people up at night, especially people my age. I don't want to say middle age, but kind of in that 40 plus or minus 10 years. They're not failing, but they know there's more and they don't know how to unlock it. So that's really the essence of the book.
Is this also a how-to? What are some tips about how to unlock some of these areas that seem to be padlocked, so to speak?
The book is cut up into 3 parts. The first 2 parts, mental, spiritual. The tactics will be useless if you don't have that mental, spiritual side. You know what I'm saying? You can have the greatest business plan in the world, but if somebody's rooted in lack, fear, and scarcity, they won't be able to execute it. So the first 2/3 of the book is really getting the mind right, understanding key foundational principles between you and the unseen. We'll just call it that, you and the creator.
The universe. When you say create is the universe.
Absolutely. Yeah. He created the game. He gave us the infrastructure. We get a say. He gives us the pen. What a beautiful picture and privilege. We get to be able to have choice, where we get to put a pen to paper and co-create with him our own life that we want and feel called to. I think that that's just a fabulous, amazing privilege that he gives us. The third part of the book, though, is more tactics. That's kind of like the roadmap. It's the 7 steps that encompass basically 3 things: creating your vision, because where there is no vision, people will perish. The second part of the roadmap is really getting into goal setting, making big priorities, quarterly goals, things like that. And then the third part is kind of your daily small wins. Most people are really good at one of the 3. You have a visionary. I'm a visionary, by the way. I'm a dreamer. I love dreaming big, but what the heck am I going to do today? I don't know what to do today. Some people are checklist people. They're great at, admin people are great at doing daily tasks, but they lack long-term vision, or a combination of whatever. So the tactics are kind of laid out in the book as well. Piece of advice for people on this call: the most important thing that you can do, and it's step 1, which I outline in my book, is decide who you want to become. Pick a target date, maybe a year in advance, and get hyper specific, not on what you want to do, but who do you want to become? Who are you in your most authentic, abundant, highest self? How is your superpower being displayed in the world? But here's the caveat, Terry. You got to get out of your rational brain. Stay really stupid. James Pressfield wrote a book called Do the Work. In there, he has a chapter called Stay Stupid. And I say that to all my students. Your rational brain is good to keep you alive. If you see a grizzly bear, it will tell you to run. That keeps our species alive. But it's very bad when determining our vision for our future, our most abundant self. You got to get in the spiritual brain. So put to death for a time temporarily as you dream and think about who you want to become. And that will lead you to rapid growth expansion.
After a short word from our sponsor, Try Coaching. Jerrid Sebesta has a lot more to share with us. I'm Terry Yoffe, an international 3-time certified executive business and communications coach. Here's something to ponder for February 2025. What are you willing to do now that you're not doing to have what you don't have now? Let me repeat that. What are you willing to do now that you're not doing to have what you don't have now? What would your answer be? Are you doing everything you can to make sure that you reach your goals and successes this year? If you aren't truly focused and committed to getting what you want, perhaps coaching is the answer. Through targeted coaching conversations, we'll uncover what is keeping you stuck and get you back on track to ensure that you meet your goals this year. Sometimes it becomes difficult for people to actually hear what's being said because it's not within their framework.
And so people have to be ready. But how do you get yourself ready? I think it goes back to something very powerful you said at the beginning of the call. You have to decide. That is actually step like 1A. You have to decide. Once you decide, the root word of decide is side, C-I-D-E, which means to kill, cut off, and destroy. You have to make a decision that you're going to do something radically different. But I want you and your listeners to understand, and you know this, Terry, that there is this game at play that you were destined to win. It's your destiny to win this game. If you open your mind to understanding the rules of the game, then life becomes a chess match. If I do this, this happens. If I do this, then this happens. And it makes life really bold and exciting.
And it also takes courage. I know I have to make a change, or the pain is too great, or I'm not getting anywhere doing this. So now I've got to shift gears and mindset and say, okay, what else is out there? And that does take courage. It takes courage to start to make a shift.
It will feel very uncomfortable when you start to step into this. But what people need to understand is that is so good and necessary. And what I'm learning, even in the last couple of months, Terry, is that that's a signal that I'm actually stepping into exactly where I need to be. And slowly but surely, what's happening literally in real time on this call, and then what I'm going through right now, I'm starting to see a shift that I actually start seeking that out. My soul actually starts to crave that feeling. So as you've heard it say, courage isn't taking a step without fear. It's taking the step with the fear still there. There's a number of ways that you can say that. But to your point, it does take a lot of courage because it might make somebody for the very first time really press in to something really uncomfortable that stretches them. But if you can just hang in there, sit in it, I think there's something powerful in sitting in the uncomfortable, surrendering any intention. I get a chance every day to write my story. And that is so empowering. It's such a drastic shift from the way I lived the first 43 years of my life.
I have started saying, and I tell my clients, we have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. How do you create change in the lives of others, making a difference, making an impact?
Well, I love what you're doing here. I love this podcast because you're introducing such powerful concepts, right? I will tell you, up until recently, when I would go speak, it was really about me. It's about me making sure that I look good, I got the right message. And those things are important. Don't get me wrong. I just did a speaking engagement a couple of days ago, and my mindset going into that, even the hour before, as I'm just kind of getting into the zone, so to speak. Yes, I want to be prepared. I've got my points, my statements, my stories. How can I make a powerful connection with these people to allow them to see something that they don't see right now, right? I mean, that's really what it is. The more that I show up like that, whether that's to a speaking engagement, group coaching, one-on-one, chatting with the neighbor down the road, whatever that looks like, how can I get them to see more of the light and inject light into their life equation? The more that I do that, the more connection I feel, ultimately, the more opportunities that show up. And sometimes I don't feel it. Sometimes I don't, but I have to get myself at that point where, like, it's not about me. It's not about how many tickets they sold. It's about how many souls are sitting in those seats, even if it's one, to create that kind of change. And I got to tell you, Terry, like that wasn't how I looked at it. We always say that. We're here to add value. If you add value, the money will follow. Like nobody's going to disagree with that. We've all heard that. But do you really believe that? And do you show up that way? And if you show up that way, you will create change for other people.
So I really love that nugget, actually, in that sometimes it's just how you show up that you can shift somebody. Just sometimes your energy, sometimes saying something that they never thought of can shift something. So I think what I'm hearing is making a difference and creating change or impact can just easily be on how you are showing up, whether it's on the stage, giving a presentation, meeting people. I just really love, which I never thought of, so thank you, it's just showing up. And in an instant, something can shift for someone where it opens a space for them to start to possibly think in a different way.
You use the E word, energy. And I love that because I think as a speaker, if you've got other speakers and coaches on this call, we think it's really about the presentation. And it really is about a transfer of energy. At the end of the day, you are on stage, whether it's on a physical stage or a one-on-one call or an interaction with a potential client or customer, it's a transfer of energy. And if you could transfer that energy really, really well, you create this authentic connection. And that's really essentially how you create the change. It's how you create the sale. It's like the next logical step in the process. And so there's something so powerful with that energy. Again, that's a great point. You know, how are you going to show up on this call? What kind of energy are you going to bring? That doesn't take a business plan. You know what I mean? That doesn't take the best strategy, but can you show up with the right energy? That has the ability to create change in and of itself.
What's one or two nuggets? I mean, you said a lot, but just zero in on one or two nuggets that you would like to leave the audience with. And then where can they get life undeferred?
I want people to understand there is no limit as to what you can do. There really isn't. I want you to be hungry for growth and expansion. That it's in your DNA. If you feel stuck, that's because your divinity is really wanting to grow and expand. And when it gets held back, you will feel antsy and you're going to want more. It's not because you're inadequate or broken. People need to hear that. I thought that for years. Like, it's like, there's something wrong with me. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with your past. Have you made some mistakes? Sure. Right? But like, that should not and could not and should not allow you to go for more. So you have really everything that you need. You just have to really tap into that inner greatness. And if you're not getting the results that you want, you can almost every time dial it back to some sort of thought that's actually keeping you locked in. So again, I hope people found this exhilarating and fun and felt that transfer of energy. But I want people to hear, like, you have exactly what it takes. This game that you are playing right now, this game of life, you were destined to win, and you have the tools to do it. It just needs to come out. And that desire for more, do not apologize for that.
And the book, where can they get that? Is it on Amazon?
Book's on Amazon. It was an Amazon bestseller. It's called Life Undeferred, How to Unlock the Dream Life Already Inside and Discover the Bold, Exciting You. Best way to get it is on Amazon. You can check out my website, my brand new website at jerridsebesta.com.
Jerrid, well, this has been illuminating and interesting. I really have enjoyed it. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Have a great day and good luck with the book and Life Undeferred. We just heard Jerrid's compelling and extraordinary conversation that has offered you thoughts on how you can start to tap into your own dreams and not put them off. Reviews encourage people to listen to my podcast. If you loved what you heard, please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review. For related content on extraordinary work, please visit my website, trycoaching.com. Can you imagine having to move out of your home for 14 months on a moment's notice? And what lessons would you have learned along the way that you can count on moving forward? That's what happened to my next guest, interior designer Jana Rosenblatt, who lives in the Los Angeles area. Fortunately, in her case, it wasn't a result of the wildfires, but it was nonetheless devastating and unsettling. You won't want to miss this emotional and inspiring conversation as Janet dives into her work in helping families rebuild after those devastating wildfires, the biggest challenges in the process, and turning loss into a fresh start, one home at a time, and how today she is in a unique position to now help those that have lost everything to the most recent raging and out of control fires that have destroyed so much.